Hello and welcome to part 6 of the Scratch block coding tutorial series. In this video we're going to be covering the basics of manipulating or updating your level design. So basically we're going to be moving through how to do a little bit of costume change on your level sprite. This will be a short video because it's pretty simple, and I'll start right now by clicking on my level sprite here in my sprite library to bring that up. So I'm going to click on my level sprite. As of right now, the only code in here is my go to 0, 0 location or coordinates that sets the sprite up in the middle of the screen. Let's click on the Costumes tab up here on the top hand left corner, and let's get to creating a little bit of a more interesting sprite or interesting level design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click using the selection tool. I'm going to select the sprite. I'm going to hit delete. We're going to start from scratch, and we're going to start designing our own little basic maze level, or sort of top-down level for our game. Making sure the fill is set to empty. Costume is named level 1 from our previous video, and outline is black with a line weight of 10. I'm going to choose my line tool. I don't really like to use the freehand brush. Scratch isn't really designed for illustration per se, and so I'm going to stick with basic lines, and we're going to go into in a later video how to basically customize this into like a really beautiful like actual art style level. But right now we're just doing a level design layout, which is where I usually start when designing a game. I get the basic sort of where everything is going to be, then I come back in and modify it into an actual well-designed sort of level with its own sprite art and tile sets, etc. So I'm going to grab line, and I'm going to grab the line. You notice the fill disappears because you can't have fill on a line. And you click and drag to create lines. One of the interesting things that you should know, it's really important, is if you click and drag, notice I've clicked and dragged now. Whenever I let go, it'll basically drop the line there. If I hold down Shift basically locks your line to 45-degree increments. Notice how it's kind of jumping between those. This is really useful, especially in a basic game. Like Scratch isn't the best for game programming, so it helps to keep your lines straight. Really reduces sort of collision with obstacle issues. So I'm going to hold down Shift, click and drag, and I'm going to create a little starting spot, and then release, click and drag, holding down Shift. And we're going to create just a little series of lines here. Now, how you design these aren't really important, but you want to give enough space for your character to be able to move through them fairly easily. So I'm going to just, like this, I'm going to create a series of sort of like barrier walls right here, a little something like that. That, and maybe I create a little tunnel system through here, an alternate way. You can come down here, and this is all basically to help your character move around in interesting ways, giving them a few little options to move through a level that you can kind of play around with. Now, I've got all these basically lined up here. If I go back to my direct selection, I can actually move these around slightly. So I can click on them, move them. I can change their length. I can rotate them if I want. Remember, Control Z or Command Z undoes whatever your last action was. I can also click on this one right here. Now, this is the one I use for resizing, actually, because you can just click on a point. If you hold down Shift, remember, it'll stick to those 45-degree angles. So if I want to like even these up here, click on this one, no. Click on this one. Just kind of cleaning them up a little bit. Also, when you're making lines, you can actually just click on the end, and it will basically continue that line from that point. I'm going to undo that one. But for instance, I could click here and bring it here, and it would connect those two. That's really useful for when you're trying to create sort of connected lines or larger shapes. So this allows you to edit the points, so where they essentially sit. Holding down Shift will keep it locked along your correct axes. Drag this over there a little bit. Now, oh yeah, look at this one right here. It looks like that might be a little bit tight. If you click on this one, I'm going to bring it over a little bit, bring this one over as well. If you hold down Shift, you should be able to select two of them at once, so you can kind of move them as a group. I'm just going to make sure that that's a wide enough passage for my guy to get through. Now we're going to do a little test. I'm basically just going to move my character around in the game. Notice here, there's something weird happening. Because I haven't basically unclicked off of my costume here, it's actually, you can see it's editing as I'm pressing the directional arrows when I'm testing my game, so do make sure that that is the case and that you can move through here cleanly and make sure everything is deselected. So it looks like my character is able to move fairly cleanly through the majority of this level, which is a good spot for me to be in. Okay, yeah, everything looks like it's working properly in my level design here. Notice I'm not putting any sort of like background in there. I still got my background here with my XY coordinates. Let's do a little change. Let's change our backdrop so that it's a little bit more interesting. So let's click on choose a backdrop. And let's find ourselves a little bit of an interesting backdrop. That's still a little, Scratch doesn't have a huge amount of interesting things. I'm going to grab the Savannah though. Let's, this one's okay looking. Okay, now we've got a Savannah in the background. Notice that the backdrop isn't what we sense, right? We sense only the level, so as long as this all works good. There's a little bit of issue here with readability on these lines with this background. I'd probably change it up a little bit and edit it further, but this is a good place to start with our basic level layout. So that is level layout. We're going to get into creating more levels right away, but this gives us a good start for moving on. I'm actually going to switch my backdrop back to that XY grid. So if I click on it right here, click on it, you can see actually, like costumes, we have backdrops. I'm just going to click on this one to reset it here. This one's still in our pocket for changing later, but I do want to reset it here just as we move into doing a little bit more work with coordinates for items and enemy minions in our next videos. So that's it for modifying and creating our level design. So remember that's in your costume, making sure you're using vector and using our line tool here. So this is a basic level 1 design. We've got the name right there in our level sprite. You can obviously do more work and create your own custom level however you see fit. The only important thing that you need to remember is make sure that your character can easily move through and there are no sort of essentially choke points that make you get stuck. Okay, that's it for this video, and join me again in part 7 where we are going to be adding in items. So we're going to be adding in items and points, and that will be the next step in our tutorial series.